Welcome back to Introduction to Visual Art. We are in week 10 of the class. In the weeks prior to this, we were, of course, talking about drawing and painting and printmaking. Now I want to talk about uh, street art, and especially how street art has moved into the fine art world. We're starting off today's presentation with the art of the days from 3 different students. And specifically, we're starting off with this presentation on Keith Haring, who truly was, in the 1980s, the premier street artist, and in many ways is considered the sort of founding person of fine art as street art, or street art as fine art. So he was able to make waves in the gallery world and on the streets. So let's see what Takaya has to say. Keith Haring was born on May 4th, 1958 in Reading, Pennsylvania, and was raised in Kutztown, Pennsylvania. Haring developed basic cartoon drawing skills from his father, Dr. Seuss, and Walt Disney. I think that's a joke, obviously. I mean, he's not related to, certainly not Walt Disney. I'm guessing not Dr. Seuss either. But, it's funny. A lot of people learn to draw by mimicking artwork that they like. Haring enrolled in Ivy School of Professional Arts in Pittsburgh, a commercial arts school. That's when he realized that he had little interest in becoming a commercial graphic artist. He left after 2 semesters. Haring remained in Pittsburgh, where he started to work on his own. In 1978, Haring had a solo exhibition of his work at the Pittsburgh Arts and Crafts Center. Haring attended the School of Visual Arts in New York City. Haring found interest in the community art that was developing outside the galleries and museums in the downtown streets, subways, and spaces in clubs and former dance halls. Haring made friends with several artists, musicians, performance artists, and graffiti writers, who all comprised the burgeoning art community. Haring had been inspired by the work of Jean Dubuffet, Pierre Alashinsky, William Burroughs, and more. Haring was motivated to devote his career to creating public art. Haring completed public projects ranging from an animation for a Spectacolor billboard on Times Square, designing sets and backdrops for theaters and clubs, developing designs for Swatch, advertising campaign for Absolute Vodka, and creating murals worldwide. Haring devoted much of his time in public works providing providing workshops for children in schools and museums, creating murals with assistance of 900 children. Haring also established the Keith Haring Foundation that provided funding and imagery for AIDS organizations when he was diagnosed in 1989. Keith Haring died of AIDS-related complications on February 16, 1990. Of this image, Takai writes, "I love the message from this picture because Keith Haring was so big on AIDS awareness. This picture speaks volumes. 2 different individuals sharing the same positive sign, which is symbolism of why it's important not to have multiple sex partners and to protect yourself." This is of a larger artwork. This image is actually stretched out on the page. It should be more of a square, but this is iconic of a lot of what Keith Haring was doing. He painted these quick, sort of stick figure-like shapes, like here. This is an example of one of his murals. something painted on canvas. Crack is whack. That was a common theme in Keith Haring's work. Um, it looks goofy. It is goofy to say crack is whack. Uh, at the same time, he was all about positive community engagement, and in the 1980s, crack was killing a lot of people in New York City and across the country. This is of a print, multiple images in the print. We the Youth, City Kids of Philadelphia and New York City. So it looks like he was collaborating with kids on this mural. Takaya says, I love Keith Haring's work. Keith is very informative and works well with the public based on the context of his pictures and biography. He loved the layover painting style, and he used his portraits to raise awareness for AIDS. He also made his work more creative, alive, colorful, and fun. I agree. Thank you, Takaya. Let's move on to the next presentation. This is by Marta on the artist Shepard Fairey. Shepard Fairey is a very, very famous living artist. He is still alive, and he, as you'll see, has designed some really famous stuff that you probably will recognize. Biography. Full name, Frank. I had no idea his name was Frank. Frank Shepard Fairey. Born February 15th, 1970 in Charleston, South Carolina. He's American, of course. He went to school at the Rhode Island School of Design. If you have not heard of the Rhode Island School of Design, I'm not surprised, but it is one of the best art schools in the country. And he's married. He's most known for public art, street art, and stenciling. Some of his notable artwork. Andre the Giant has a posse. I'm sure many of you haven't seen this image of Andre the Giant, and it says Andre the Giant has a posse, but it is quite famous, so look around for it, and you might recognize it. Obey Giant, so a picture of a face, and it says Obey across the bottom. Often you see it on a billboard or on a sticker. He designed the Barack Obama image, the iconic one that says Hope. Something about Rock the Vote. And also the Obey clothing line, which, lots of skaters would wear. Notable awards. The Brit Insurance Design Awards, Design of the Year, and Free Culture Award. So this is the Andre the Giant has a posse sticker or artwork. It's either, you see this sometimes on the sides of buildings in Chicago, in New York City, in other cities. Or you see stickers of it. So Andre the Giant, if you don't know, was a professional wrestler from like the 1980s, maybe 70s. And he was a huge dude. He was like really a giant, 7 feet 4 inches tall. From 1989. Maybe you've seen this image, Obey. Again, you see this on lots of stickers, but you also see it on the sides of buildings. And then this is the Barack Obama Hope poster. This is some of the Obey clothing. So something called We the People. Looks like a series of posters. These are nice. Political images. Multicultural. Giant, giant mural. I'm not sure where this mural was painted, but uh, lots of cities have Shepard Fairey murals painted in them, and certainly I can't tell you where. Maybe like in the Loop, but I'm pretty sure I've seen Shepard Fairey murals in Chicago. Make art, not war. Peace, elephant. A critic's statement on the work. Wow, that is a crazy last name. Peter Sheldall, a writer at the New Yorker since 1998 and the magazine's art critic. It was only about a year ago, though it feels like half a lifetime, that Shepard Fairey created the most efficacious American political illustration since Uncle Sam Wants You, the Obama Hope poster. I won't forget coming across it last summer, stenciled on a sidewalk of a hamlet. I was delighted as an Obama supporter. The result was strident and mystical, yanking my mind into a placeless jet stream of abstract associations. It exploited a familiar graphic device, exalted and refined by Andy Warhol, of polarizing photographs into solid darks and blank lights, thus rendering volumetric subjects dead and flat. The aesthetics of Fairey's show are formulaic, but they exercise immediate power. His screen prints on paper, canvas, plastic, and metal from found photographs and illustrations. He is a terrific designer. How about Marta's opinion? While evaluating Shepard Fairey's artwork, I was immediately impressed. Fairey took a subject, politics, in which he was very passionate about, and created art to express his beliefs to the rest of society. His work is modern and somewhat similar to a great artist, Andy Warhol. The color palette uses mostly primary colors, red, yellow, and blue. The subject of Fairey's work is almost always in contrast to the background. Fairey creates this contrast by using very opposite colors. For example, a dark color, black, for the subject contrasting with primary colors around. I believe Shepard Fairey is a very rare artist. His work brings the eye to any dull building. By basing his artwork off of his passion for politics, Fairey creates an uplifting and successful print. While researching, I was fascinated and very inspired. I have yet to see an artist with this level of modern creativity. That is quite the compliment, Marta, but I think very excellent thing that you wrote. And then the works cited. All right. So there's one thing I wanted to talk about, and that's this image here. Perhaps you're familiar with the concept of a wheat paste. You see this in cities often, and it became popular certainly in the late 90s, early 2000s, where artists would print out images, like go to literally like FedEx office, and they have a large format printer, and print out the images, and then like wallpaper, paste them up on the wall in a city. I'm sure you've seen this. You've seen it in movies. I'm sure you've seen it in real life. Um, but that is what it is. It is a flimsy paper that is soaked in glue and then brushed and pushed up onto the wall. All right, thank you, Marta. And then our third and final art of the day presentation is about the artist Swoon. This is by Venice. I suppose Swoon's given name is Caledonia Curry. She's American, born in 1977 in New London, Connecticut. She was raised in Daytona Beach, Florida. Apparently, her parents were opioid addicts. That's pills or even heroin. She was enrolled in art classes at the age of 10. The art classes were mainly old, retired people, but that's where she learned art. She moved to New York in 1997 and attended Pratt Institute from 98 to 2001. She was an activist at Pratt that provided free community dinners. She's a feminist activist. In 1999, Curry started covering sides of buildings with her paper portraits. This is another example of her of wheat paste. So here on the side of a building in Brooklyn, she printed out or drew this image on paper and then glued it to the wall. And then this one as well. Those are both nice. Her first attempt at street art did not stick. She has childhood trauma. She's been battling mental illness, and I suppose she goes to therapy. Projects. Meaningful artwork. New Orleans music box after Hurricane Katrina. That must be what we're looking at. Seems like an interesting sculpture. I wonder how it works. Swoon has many projects focused on rehabilitating and helping communities. This is an interesting project that she did. She sailed in order to prank what's called the Venice Biennale. The Venice Biennale is an international art show where every country in the world, really, most countries, they have a pavilion in Venice, Italy. And once every 2 years, they show the best art from that country. It's sort of like the Olympics, but for nerdy artists. So for this, she sailed on this pile of stuff, a raft made from scraps. She traveled from Koper, Slovenia to Venice, Italy. That's right across the Caspian Sea. Rafts were made of trash to symbolize freedom from radical self-reliance. Interesting. I'd love to have been there to see this raft floating up. Some of her installations. Cicada, 2019. It's interesting. There's a lot going on there. Lots of layers. Some sculpture also. And then something called Memento Mori in Oaxaca, Mexico. It's beautiful. So she must have wheat pasted right onto the walls in this gallery. Swoon has had many installations in many museums around the world. Submerged Mothers, this must be this artwork, in Brooklyn was built to raise awareness about climate change. This is beautiful. Here's some artwork from 2020. Some of Venice's favorite pieces. Personally, all my favorite pieces of artwork by Swoon would be any done based on Mexican culture. Venice has made numerous pieces around real-life problems in Mexico. She honored missing women and homicide victims. Critics review. I guess some quotes from the New York Photo Review. Swoon's street art always stopped me and made me look. Swoon likes to repeat images, and street artist turned gallery artist. Looks like an interesting article. Venice's personal opinion. From my point of view, I believe that Swoon is a very admirable artist. She is a woman in the art industry that came from a rough childhood. Her art pieces are not only appealing to the average person walking down the street, but they also bring awareness to problems all over the world. It's a nice piece in Oaxaca. A mermaid. Those are the sources. Well, were really great presentations. Thank you, guys. Now, this is the end of the Art of the Day presentation. And what you need to do now is move on to the feature presentation. This week, you don't need to hear any more lecture from me. Instead, you're going to be watching a movie. This movie is available for now on YouTube, and I don't know how long the link will last, but like I said, we're watching a movie called Exit Through the Gift Shop, and it's a movie that I show every year around this time, but YouTube will have to do. It's the only source for it now. So jump on it, watch the movie, grab some popcorn, grab your family. It's a pretty good movie. And when you're done with that, check out the quiz and answer some questions about Art of the Day and the movie.